Hello, welcome back to the Context Bonsai live streaming series on VibeCodelicious. So we've been working on this OpenCode plugin called Context Bonsai. It lets the LLM edit its own context, which allows the LLM to do long-running tasks better than before without hitting the context size limit. Um, and it also keeps the context tight and focused as it goes along and does its work, which should result in better output from the LLM. So yeah, that's the main project we're working on. And then on side projects, we're actively using that plugin to make sure that it works the way we want and that it has the benefits that we want. Yesterday, we were doing just two activities, one side project and one context bonsai. Get back to it. So one of the side projects was the image to maze project, where we feed an image to the CLI tool that we're creating, and then that image, this is the image we're using, that image gets turned into a maze. Now, the maze doesn't really faithfully look like the image at all, and we're creating a GUI so that we can tweak some settings in this maze so that we can fool around with sliders and moving things around until we get better results that look somewhat like the input image. And yesterday we went on a bit of a side quest to make our orchestration system um, record baseline results in the execution plan in the specification, so that when we get to the place where the agent runs tests and some of the tests fail, the agent doesn't just say, oh, these tests were already failing, I'm ignoring those, they don't have anything to do with what I'm working on, I'm just going to continue working. That is a common failure mode, and it's been especially bad with the most recent generation of LLMs. They kind of fail in the exact same way of just claiming the failure already existed before without any kind of evidence to support that theory. So we updated our orchestration system so that our execution plans always have a testing baseline table recorded, and the tests are run, and any failing tests are noted at the very beginning of the task. And so at the end of the task, if the tests have a different set of failures, it's very obvious that came from the current active task that's being worked on. That completed. And then I did one run of the test to make sure that those are actually working, and they are. All of the tests are currently passing. So now we're ready to move on to the next phase of this image to maze project, which is continuing work on the GUI. So I'm going to have it search through the plans for something related to a GUI, because I did already start on it before, but I don't know how far I got or exactly what was in that plan. So search agents/plans for a spec related to creating a GUI. Okay. While that's working, we're back on the Context Bonsai project, and we had sort of two things going on this project as well. Oh, actually, no, because one of them is pretty much done. The plugin itself, I think, is in a stable position where we don't need to make any changes. That's this plugin back here, this window back here, and then this window in the foreground now is our window 2, where we are creating a meta plan. So the way we've been working on all of our vibe coding stuff is we first create a plan, and there's a whole document that describes how I want my plans to be created. And then there's an orchestration system that takes the plan and it runs it through a developer and a reviewer and a judge, and it keeps on going through the loop until the entire plan is complete. Right now we're creating a meta plan, which is a plan that will produce a plan. And the idea is that we're going to need to continuously update OpenCode. So we've made some small modifications to OpenCode, but OpenCode is a moving target. It's constantly being developed, and we're going to have to reapply our changes onto whatever the latest version of OpenCode is. So to do that, I'm making this meta plan that will understand the goal. Okay, these are the commits that are going to need to be rebased, and the target of the rebase is the latest upstream dev, and it will do the work of getting the exact commit IDs that need to be replayed on the latest, and it will also get whatever the latest commit is and sort of store it and write up a concrete plan that can be executed. And then that concrete plan can then be used by an agent to actually do the rebase. I tested this a few times yesterday. There were some issues that we were coming across, and I had slowly sort of gotten rid of each issue as we came across it. And now the last one, I haven't reviewed this yet. It completed the most recent rebase task based on the latest meta plan. And it looks like it had to have 2 revisions. The first one needed some revision. The second one fixed the issues, and it passed both reviewer and judge stages. So it'll be interesting to understand what needed revision here. And it also discovered problems. When I executed this, I said to orchestrate the plan and take note of any problems that we may need to bring back to fix the meta plan with. So the orchestrator was paying attention to what was happening, and this is its feedback about stuff. The validation command spec ambiguity. So it has a way to validate something, and it was treated as invalid ambiguous as a combined form. Better to require separate verify commands in generated plans. Okay, interesting. I'm not really sure what that means, but I will trust it without digging in. Fetch determinism issue across remotes. So fetch --all --prune can be non-deterministic in auth constrained environments. Actually, yeah, we do keep running into an issue where it's popping up a get password dialog, and I think that's probably because one of the remotes is configured in the wrong way, and I think that's what it's running into here. Generated plans should define fallback or explicit remote fetch strategy. So this I do want to dig into. I do want to understand what's happening when it's opening up those dialogues. Okay. Validation execution model ambiguity. Commands depending on prior vars need explicit single shell session contract. Oh, sure. Maybe there could be something in the plan that says to set some shell variables and then do some commands. And if it goes to a developer and then to a reviewer and then comes back to a developer and the developer continues, it may skip over the setting the environment variables. I'm not really sure, but it will be interesting to understand more about that. Otherwise, validation gates are brittle. Okay. Seal governance versus technical completion mismatch. Technical gates passed, but the reviewer and judge approvals remained pending until explicitly recorded. Generated plans need clearer separation of technical seal versus governance seal states. I want to know what it means by that. Evidence table formatting fragility. This one I actually saw it happen as it was doing stuff. The markdown table rows with unescaped pipe characters broke the schema expectations. So yeah, it records a table of evidence in the spec, and that table uses pipe characters to separate cells of a row, but regular shell commands use pipe characters for pipelines. So that caused issues, and we can probably update the plan to just note that commands in the table need to be escaped for those characters. And then generated plans should require escaped cells backticks. Yep, okay. Exception ledger policy is not explicit enough. Command substitutions were recorded in evidence, but not exception ledger initially. The exception ledger, I believe, let me look at this. I'm not sure. I'll have to understand what that means. But part of this plan is that it has to look at all of the commits that have happened since the last commit that we have in common with the upstream. So it lists all the commits that have changed and identifies which ones are supposed to be carried forward or not carried forward. And I think that's what it's talking about with the exception ledger, but I'm not sure. We should dig into that a little bit. I also observed these two items were fixed during revision. Reviewer judge approvals present, now true, and seal status ready. Exception ledger now populated with require fields and approval citations. Okay, so that's what the revision step fixed. If you want, I can turn the above into concise metaplan checklist. Yeah, first let's talk about this. Let's peek in on image to maze and see what it's doing. Found it, the main GUI spec is there. Related GUI story files. Which of these are already implemented? Ah, there's that GitHub password dialog. So escape. Good. Okay, that might take it a while to answer, but in the meantime, this guy found the exact cause of the auth stuff. Cool. What's happening? Git fetch all prune fetches every configured remote. Your repo has these remotes: origin, vibecodalicious, upstream, anomalyco, HTTPS. The password dialogs are from the anomalyco remote. In non-interactive mode, fetch fails with unable to read askpass response from that. Cannot read username from that. So the fetch prompt issue is not upstream. It's the extra HTTPS remote being included by -- all. Okay. I think anomalyco and upstream are actually the same repo, but different protocols. Can you confirm or refute? I could just go open up the file, but I'm not. Because I can just have it do that, and then I can move on to this. All three stories... Oh, there it goes again with the GitHub thing. All three stories appear implemented. Epic-.MD is the umbrella plan. Right, yep. Not implemented itself. Implementation stories, 1, 2, 3. And it says everything is implemented. Okay. How do I run the GUI? Also, give me a brief overline of what things are included in the GUI. All right, back over here. Refute with high confidence. They are different repos, not just different protocols. Oh, interesting. Upstream is anomalyco/anomalycode.git. The other one is github.com/anomalyco/OpenCode Anthropic auth. Oh, I didn't realize I had cloned that. That is just completely unneeded. So let's drop that. Remove the anomalyco repo completely. I'll never need it. Cool. Back to image to maze. Ah, yes, nice. Okay. And here's how to run the thing. Let's first see if this is already running. Unable to connect. Let's see. Let's get a separate tab just for this, and this can come over here. Okay. Now we can run the thing. What's going on? Oh, I see. There. Error script exited code. Okay, well. Too many symbolic links encountered. Oh. ls.lm conductor. Oh, so okay. Now maybe it will work. There we go. Hey, look at that. Okay. And before I dig into this, let's take a peek at the list of things that are included. Image input, Poisson MST controls, grid, seed, radius, k-neighbors, max floor, max threshold, invert density, preview toggles, show source underlay, show start end markers, cool. Live preview pipeline, debounced updates, worker backed generation, stale job cancellation behavior. Oh, great. This is quite fancy already. Validation error UI inline control, validation errors. Okay. Preview error state with last good preview retention. Oh, cool. Nice. Browser MVP testing verification hooks. Deterministic browser tests, schedule worker tests, and E2E preview tests. Okay. Not included is multi-method switching, so now it only supports this one method of generating mazes. That's good. Preset persistence is not included, so once we change the values, they go away if we close the thing. And a dedicated export workflow because we save directly from the browser preview. Okay. Great. Let's try this out. I need the path to... Oh, that's great. It's already there. Open. Haha! Well, well, well. Let's turn off the image, like the background. What is it called? Source underlay. Okay, so there's what it's doing, and we can kind of see a banana-ish shape here. Let's mess with some stuff. Grid size, let's make it more dense. Oh, it has some X. Oh, no, it doesn't. It just takes longer to generate these higher grid things, I think. I would like to see like a little throbber. Let's keep a list of issues. Add a throbber if a preview is currently being generated. Okay. I think there we go. Running. Oh, it does show something even if it's not a throbber. Okay. All right, well, just density is not improving much. Seed's just gonna randomize the paths. Radius min. What happens if we bump that really high? Yeah, it gets rid of curves, and if we make it really low, it should make it more squiggly, which I think is what we want. I'll stick there for now. Oh, hey, it's starting to form. I actually want to invert it. Oh, I also need a threshold. That is the opposite of what I'm looking for, I think. I think when it's inverted, the threshold isn't really going to work. Maybe mask floor is what I want? Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. Well, now let's turn on the underlay. I would like more ways of modifying the underlay. I want, more ways to modify the underlay. I want to adjust the brightness, contrast, so I can see the maze clearly on top of it. Okay, next, what do we want? Let's turn this back off because it is pretty hard to see. So it is kind of getting more dense in the light areas and less dense in the dark areas. The issue is with the shadow, or with the light spill on the table area and the shadow on the banana. They're very similar, but we did do some color sample droplets, and we did see that this is technically a different shade than this, and actually this is lighter than this back here. So I would expect us to be able to mess with the mask floor to get it only inside the banana. There we go. It's getting there. Okay. Let's go with that for now. And let's turn off the underlay again. Okay. Now, what do I need? I wonder what K-neighbors does. Appears to do nothing at all. Initial graph neighborhood size before MST compaction. This appears to have absolutely no effect whatsoever. Okay, let's just put it back to a reasonable value. Radius max. Oh yeah, when we were decreasing this, we were able to get more squigglies in the area that matters. So yeah, this is looking good. Hey, this is, whoop. Oh, we passed the min. Okay, that's the min. Let's go like that. Okay, maybe take the mask for up, 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 up. I do want it to cover the shadows. Am I going the wrong direction? It needs to be down, down, down. Yeah, but yeah, now when I get into the shadows, it starts spilling out here. Okay, interesting. We definitely have accomplished something. This is kind of exactly what I was looking for in the GUI, is to be able to constantly adjust these values and see how they affect the image, and that is exactly what I got. Now, this image, however, is kind of not suitable. I think I'm going to go look for another image. Let me see if I can go here. Samples. Yep, that's the samples. I thought I put more in there. Well, we can at least try with one of these tangrams. I think it'll be really easy to make these work because we kind of already had that working. An attempt was made to use an object that is not or is no longer usable. What? Try again. Try any other image. Go back to the banana. What happens if I just refresh and choose a different image at the beginning? Okay, so that's an SVG. Okay, that could be the problem. Those are SVGs. This is a PNG. Okay. I actually don't want to add that feature yet, because that's just going to take a whole dev cycle for something pretty simple that I can mess around with locally. I am more interested in getting a better image. So let's see. I did have a few images somewhere. Let me see what I can find here. Okay. Yeah, let me pull this into a new thing. Well, so I'm using ChatGPT to generate these. I do have another one I can save. Where did I go? Here. And save image as. Go to that samples. There we go. Image to maze. Samples. There we go. This will be banana. Whoa. Banana. high key. All right. Browse. Is it gonna? Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, no, go back. Dang. Projects. Image to maze. Samples. Banana high key. Here. Okay, let's. Okay, invert density is off, which is what we want. I want to make the radius min way low. Whoa, I guess that's too low. Huh. It's interesting that once you get down to a certain part, it's completely broken. That could be because we need a higher grid size. Bump it up. Okay, let's lower the radius. Oh, there's still sort of a minimum. Now the mask threshold. Oh. That's interesting that at 0.96 it completely turns off. I don't know why that would happen. Mask floor, what will this do? It's also turning it off. Huh. And I think K nearest neighbors is still not going to do anything at all. Okay, well. If there's a huge difference between radius max and radius min, that might help us out. Well, you go beyond a certain point and it stops working, I guess. Oh, that's so strange. 6.3 works. 6.4 works. 6.5, nothing. 6.6, nothing. 6.7, nothing. 6.8 works. That's very surprising. I'm going to capture those settings and tell the LLM about it and see what it thinks is happening here. Screenshot. That's going to be the easiest way. Okay, there's one screenshot. Let's put it in here. And oh, actually, I didn't capture enough. Backspace that out. Retry the screenshot tool. There we go. That goes here. Whoops. Come on. Oh, that's what's happening. I need that screenshot back, and it's over here, and put it over here. There. Okay. So that's the 6.8. Now we need the 6. No, was it radius max? Yeah, it's radius max. Okay. And actually it was that I went down and it stopped working, and I went further and it did work. Okay. So another screenshot. Actually, no, from that point I can just type in the values. When the mask threshold is 0.9. Was it mask threshold that I was messing with? Yeah. Or no. Was it this? Yes. Okay, when radius max. Radius max is 6.8. It works. 6.7, it doesn't work. Use. And it's 6.7, it doesn't. I think it was 6.7 or 6.6. And then when it's 6.5, 6.4. Okay, that'll be quite a bit for it to chew on. Oh, okay. I'm really glad that it showed me a plan before it started doing stuff. Anyway, before I told it to, it usually will just go ahead and start digging in and making stuff. Add a preview throbber state. Okay, good. Actually, I might want to note that there are already fields that say something like generating. What does it say? Running jobs. Okay. Add underlay tuning controls, brightness, and contrast. Apply them in the browser preview render pipeline. Underlay layer only and not the maze strokes. Yes. Keep defaults neutral. Brightness equals 1. Contrast equals 1. And reset support. Oh, you don't need reset. Okay. Apply them in browser preview render pipeline. Oh, yeah, we already talked about that. Fix or diagnose radius max instability. Okay, that's going to be a whole separate thing. Use the planning guidance.md doc to generate a plan for these two features. Okay. Next, back to the plugin stuff, OpenCode. Okay, I removed the bad anomaly code remote, so that dialog isn't going to keep popping up. The other stuff was, let's see. I had a bunch of things I wanted to ask about. Okay, so I've covered the fetch determination thing, determinism. Next was the seal thing. Yeah, this. Okay, so that's busy, that's busy. And today I am going to start messing with a third project. Oh, okay, it already returned, so we'll stick here for now. Seal means final gate to declare the rebase cycle complete or ready. Okay, so there are several gates that need to be sealed. Technical seal, purely objective checks pass. Replay, set resolved, no unresolved manual review, expected commit inventory matches. Okay. Is the branch technically correct? Okay. Governance seal. Human process approvals are present. Reviewer and judge approvals are recorded. Exception ledger entries are approved. Exception ledger entries. Yeah, I wanted to understand what it means by this. Policy compliance sign off complete. Okay, this answers is authorized or approved to proceed. Why this matters, you can have technical pass but governance pending, which happened. Without explicit split, it's unclear whether ready means works versus approved to ship. The meta plan should force both states to be reported distinctly, so orchestration can't silently treat one as the other. Okay, sure, that's fine, I guess. So what is the exception ledger? Okay, now we got a response already. Good. The exception ledger is a structured log of deviations from the planned or standard commit contract during a rebase cycle. If we had to do something off script, it goes there. Okay, and what was the issue at surfaced about it? Here we go. Policy is not explicit enough. Okay, sure, fine. Okay. Okay. I'm having it make the suggested changes. So that probably will churn for a while because it has to go through running subagents to do validations and stuff. So we can switch over to the new project. So this orchestration system, LLM conductor, takes a plan, and it has an orchestrator, and the orchestrator takes care of launching a developer and giving the developer the first story of the plan and asking the developer to complete that story. Once the developer claims it's complete, the orchestrator takes over and gives it to a reviewer and says the developer has completed this task, review this, and the reviewer has its own list of instructions that it does, and then it completes, and then it moves forward to the review judge, who will either approve or reject various things that the reviewer said to fix, because the reviewer tends to expand the scope. It'll find all kinds of issues, and a lot of the issues are things are like suggestions for improvements that I don't really want at this point, because if I wanted it, I would have probably put it in the plan already. So the judge is responsible for approving things that actually need to be fixed, that are actually contrary to the plan, and rejecting things that will cause scope creep. So if the reviewer or the judge says, this story isn't done, you need a revision, then the orchestrator takes it and gives it back to a developer subagent, but it launches a new developer subagent. And I think I would like to experiment with having it reuse the same developer subagent. I think for one, it will cause less churn. Like when it launches that developer subagent, one of the things the subagent has to do is sort of read all of the relevant files, the files that were modified, the plan, related files that it might need information on, and only then it can start proceeding with whatever modifications have to be done. If instead we reuse the original developer, that developer already has all the information loaded, it already understands the plan, it made the initial changes, and when a revision note comes along, it probably can understand it better than a completely new subagent. In addition, I have verified that in OpenCode, subagents can use Context Bonsai. So because the subagents can do Context Bonsai, reusing a developer subagent is not going to end up in a situation where the agent does a compaction and auto compaction and resets from the beginning and starts going off the rails. I've used Context Bonsai enough that that happens so rarely. You so rarely end up in auto compaction mode that I think I would rather just take my risk, and it may end up in auto compaction if we do this, but it probably shouldn't. So I had this LLM read the README of LLM Conductor so it understands what it does, and now I'm going to tell it basically what I told you. Want the orchestrator to reuse the existing developer sub agent if the harness allows for that. For revisions. Only for revisions, if the harness allows that. Okay. The reviewer and review judge subagents should continue to be fresh subagents. Use planning guidance.md to create a plan for making the changes. Okay. Add a subagent session policy. Developer subagent can be reused only for revisions of the same story where the harness platform supports session continuation. Yes. Reviewer and judge must always be launched as fresh subagents each iteration. Okay, update phase 1 developer. Iteration 1, always launch afresh and handle its session handle in story state. Iteration 2, if platform supports resume and prior developer session exists, resume that same subagent, otherwise launch. Yep. Keep phase 2 and phase 3 explicitly fresh only. Reviewer is always a new session. Judge is always a new session. And then update the launching subagents session. Cool. That sounds like exactly what I want. Okay, so this is going to spin on producing a plan. Back to the Context Bonsai guy. Make all the changes, treat this as another iteration loop. You didn't follow instructions. Make no further modifications. So it's either okay, so it searched and it read and then it said it's done. But that's not what I told it to do. You're right, I didn't follow your make no further. No, you're getting the order of events mixed up. The make no further modifications is the most recent message that was caused because you didn't follow instructions. The was warning in response to me missing early instructions. We're currently back in build mode and can proceed. I'll follow your ordering and instruction precedence carefully from here. If you want, I'll continue the last successful orchestration result. What the fuck, dude? What message do you see from me, user, immediately before the what did I say? You didn't follow instructions message. It's context utilization is 48%. It shouldn't be this confused about stuff. Nope, that is not what I said. No, you're wrong. Right. And that's what you failed to follow. What do you think you should do next? Apply all metaplan fixes from the concrete plan orchestration findings. Treat it as a new validation iteration loop per planning guidance.md. Run the missing details check. Yeah, that's how you do it. Yep. Yes, do that. Okay, back to image to maze. Let's see. It created the plan. It ran it through the subagent checks, and it seems like it's all happy now. Okay, now it's time to, let me copy this so I can paste it later when I ask it to, when I ask it to orchestrate stuff. Okay, now it's time to debug the, what is it called, the radius? Radius max. I might want to tell it the location of the image because it's not going to see that from the screenshot, and I'm not sure if it's related to this input image or not. Oh, actually, that's easy to test. Let's take this and choose the other one. 6.4 is not working. 3 doesn't work. 2 doesn't work. 1 doesn't work. Move it up. Okay, yeah, I have to give it the specific image, apparently. So is this, can I copy the path? Yes, okay. It appears to be dependent on the input image. The one that's causing the issue with this particular set of values is that. Oh, shoot. It pasted the image. Okay. The OpenCode harness is kind of annoying. If you paste the path to an image, it doesn't put the path there. It inserts the image in itself into the thing instead of the path. Okay, how can I? Let's do that and put a space there. Copy, paste, paste. Come on, can it paste? Paste. This is so annoying. There. .png. Okay. Okay, so that's going to chew for quite a while. That's going to be a complex debugging task. Oh, this thing already finished. Yeah, and it looks like it did do the stuff correctly. Okay. All right. Let me just take a look at the Git tree here and find out what we have. Close iteration to evidence gaps for rebase cycle. Yep. Strengthen the plan. I think the rebase tasks are not really updating the head, even though it said it was done. This is not. Maybe it just copied all of my doc updates. Okay, so the most recent commit from somebody else is February 11th. Okay, this is just not working at all. Okay. Maybe that's because the git fetch was failing because of the repo issue. Oops, what have I done? There. And so even though git fetch was failing, it just proceeded forward as if it worked, and it did a rebase on top of the thing it was already based on. I'm not really sure what happened, but something didn't go right. Okay, now for the previous concrete plan execution, it looks like it did nothing at all. What the heck is happening? The execution happened on a separate replay branch / work tree, not your current branch. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at that. What's going on? Copy this. Okay, there we go. Git log that. Oh man, the copy paste is broken again. I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with that because it really slows me down when copy paste doesn't work. Come on, man. It's this. It's in my copy. It's in my paste buffer. What a piece of garbage. Can I middle click? Whoa, that is not what I wanted. Oops, not what I intended. Go like this. Go like this. There we go. Git log. Okay. Still February 11th. Nope. Nope. Actually take a real look. Look at the git log for that. What were we doing over here? Oh, that's a project that I haven't done in this session. Go over here. Okay. So this is back to the LLM conductor, getting it to reuse subagents. So it's created a plan, it validated the plan, now it's time to orchestrate the plan. Let's make sure it actually does the orchestrate and not directly doing it itself. Come on, guy. I just need you to go one further step. Do one thing so I can tell that you're working. Oh my goodness. Okay, good. It's reading the orchestrator agent file. It's probably going to work out. Preparing patch. Why? What file is it messing with? Holy moly, this is so slow. Okay, what did it try to do? Orchestra. Apply patch. Stop. You are not following instructions. Your behavior is unacceptable. There you go, buddy. That's better. Okay. Back over to the image to maze guy. Let's see what it's figuring out. Oh, that's not image to maze. That's context bonsai. Okay, image to maze. This is reproducible as a density collapse, not a hard work or render failure with blah, that, all those settings. Dense, dense, very sparse, looks like no maze, and then dense again. Why would it be very sparse here but dense there and there? The issue is a sharp, nonlinear jump in Poisson sampling outcome around that parameter. Interesting. I would love to see a graph of what's happening there. Highly sensitive to small radius changes for this image or seed, causing a different sampling trajectory and a huge node count swing. Okay, that's fine. I need the path to that other plan that it created in this session. There we go. Good. Okay, it's going to do the right thing here. Oops. Now back to the Context Bonsai plugin and OpenCode. Start from the safety snapshot. Okay. Replay / carry forward the approved commits onto frozen / latest upstream base. End with a replay branch whose meaningful content is that replay result. What actually happened, the replay branch ended up as a near one-to-one cherry pick of the same commits from the safety branch. So it looks like busy work rather than a meaningful transformed outcome. In other words, we produced a rebased branch mechanically, but not materially cleaner. Well, that's not even the problem. I have to figure out if the issue was that the concrete plan was created incorrectly or if the concrete plan was executed incorrectly. And if the concrete plan was created incorrectly, was that due to the metadata meta plan being incorrect, or was that due to the meta plan being executed incorrectly? It's pruning way too much now. This agent just did something incredibly stupid. Well, at least it understands. It deleted all of the content from the beginning of the previous concrete plan execution all the way till my most recent message where I said that's not even the problem. No. All the way up to, do you understand what was supposed to have happened? This is like the third time now that I've seen it make extremely poor pruning choices. We might have to go back to the plugin and update the tool description to get it to make better choices about that. Right. Now figure out if the problem was baked into the concrete plan. Did it have a wrong frozen upstream dev commit? And I'm a little bit there's a little bit of ambiguity here about what the correct frozen upstream dev commit is, because upstream dev is a continuously moving target. So the correct one isn't necessarily what it is now, it's what it was when the plan was created. But definitely the wrong one is this one. That's wrong. Anything other than that is probably correct. Oh, it's printing way too much again. Holy moly. It pruned all the way up to the point where I told it pruned the wrong stuff. Oh. The problem is baked in the concrete plan. Current upstream dev is now that. Upstream headshot is that. What was the wrong one? D68. D68. Yeah, that's wrong. Okay. Jeez. All right. Well, okay. Review the meta plan and see if you can determine why following that would have produced a bad concrete plan. I'm going to have to fix something in the image to maze thing because it routinely writes to /temp as part of its, I think, one of the end-to-end tests that it does, and then it has to read from that, and there's no way to permanently allow OpenCode to read that directory. So I might have to give it extra context in this project to output temp stuff to the current directory in a temp folder here. Okay. Let's see, it has analyzed stuff in the meta plan. Whoa, no upstream staleness and validation rule. The meta plan correctly says freeze upstream head SHA and use frozen refs, but it does not force a pre-execution freshness check like compare frozen upstream head SHA to the current upstream dev right before orchestration. If different, hard fail. It's the problem if it's the same, not different. Well, that's not even correct either. It optimizes for deterministic replay, not meaningful carry forward scope. That is the opposite of the problem. On this part, that is absolutely, completely desired and a strict requirement. We must have static SHA references in the concrete plan. It optimizes for, okay. No upstream staleness. And on this part, let's give it a little divider. This is sort of messy. Okay. Your reasoning is weird wrong. This dialogue is so annoying. Okay. Back to image to maze. That's still working. Back to the LLM conductor. That seems to have finished. It did do the various run a developer, then a reviewer, then a judge. And it looks like it's all done. Okay. So now whenever orchestrators run, they should reuse the developer subagents. So I think this whole project is done. I'm going to leave it open here because we might come back and make modifications depending on how things go in the other projects. And the other projects are symlinked. They have symlinks to these files. So because these are now changed, anytime the other agents reread the orchestrator agent document, it's going to get the new instructions and hopefully follow them correctly. In fact, this orchestrator right now might already have the new instructions. It'll be interesting to see if it goes through a revision. It'll be interesting to see if it goes back to the same developer. Okay, well, image to maze is still chewing. LLM conductor's done. Context Bonsai. Alrighty, you're right on both points. Static frozen SHA references in the concrete plan are absolutely correct and required. My framing was off. The real issue is not deterministic freeze is bad. The real issue is we executed a concrete plan that was already tied to an older frozen upstream SHA while the current upstream dev had moved. So the failure mode is better described as plan applicability mismatch, not bad determinism. Kind of. In other words, the concrete plan did exactly what it said. Sure. We ran the wrong concrete plan for latest upstream now. No, that's not. No. on this statement. No, that is not the issue. The issue is in the creation of that plan in the first place. That plan should never have been created because this is the base we've been on for weeks and weeks. The agent that produced the concrete plan failed to identify the correct new upstream dev. Can you see anything in the meta plan that would have caused this to happen? I can't believe how wrong it is. I'm basically asking it the same thing I already asked way long ago. Do you see anything in the plan that would have caused the problem we saw? Okay, let's see. I can see likely causes in the meta plan that would allow that bad concrete plan to be generated. The biggest one, it requires freezing upstream head SHA, but does not require proving that freeze came from a successful current fetch of the target upstream remote. Okay. Earlier, it even used fetch -- all, which can fail on unrelated remotes and leave upstream stale while still letting planning continue if not checked tightly. Okay. Other agent gaps. No mandatory fetch success for upstream gate before freeze. No required fetch evidence plus fetch upstream SHA providence in the concrete plan header. No explicit hard fail if the get fetch step fails. Okay. Right. Let's update the meta plan. Use planning guidance.md and treat this as another revision step. Let's see if it does that correctly. So this general process that we've gone through from when we detected a failure to saying, we need to fix the stuff, all the negotiation of trying to get it to understand what the problem is in the first place and what a good idea for continuing forward is, this whole process is called alignment. I'm making sure that the LLM's understanding and goals are aligned with my understanding and goals. That's sort of that general process. And eventually, I would like to get some of my historical OpenCode sessions and have an LLM agent sort of read through them and take notes on how the alignment process works so that the LLM, it would be really interesting to just see an LLM have its own idea and trajectory and plan and launch subagents that go off the rails and be able to get those subagents back into alignment so they continue forward without just trying to clobber and saying, no, not that, yes, this, because that just saying, don't do that, do this is frequently, it leads towards it just redoing the same bad thing over and over again, in my experience, rather than going through sort of a reasoning process step by step and having it sort of generate its own responses that become correct in the end. Okay, both of our projects are busy chewing forward. I think maybe it's a good place to end this session. I'm probably going to continue this loop off stream. I will probably leave the image to maze where it is, wherever this lands. I'll just leave that and we'll resume that where it left off tomorrow. But this one is a slow process of like generating the concrete plan, having it orchestrate the plan, making sure that the plan did what it's supposed to do. That whole thing is like a loop that keeps finding new ways for it to fail and I have to reset it over and over again, and it's just sort of long and slow. So I'm probably gonna keep poking this along slowly by slowly in the background off stream. And hopefully tomorrow this whole process will be done and we'll be able to move on to the next phase of what we need to do for the Context Bonsai plugin, which I think is going to be um, doing a rebase to clean up all of the commits, because we made several documentation changes and a few minor changes, and we want everything to be sort of minimal, like just 2 or 3 commits that just do the functional changes. I don't actually want all the documentation changes committed, so we're going to have to peel those all out of it. Just generally clean things up. Oh, wow, this finished. Okay, it generated it modified the meta plan so that it doesn't cause the same issues, hopefully. Let's see. Follow the, or let's have it launch a sub agent and instruct it to. Oh, I don't think sub agents can launch sub agents in OpenCode. Let me do a quick test. Launch a sub agent and give it instructions to launch its own sub agent and ask for a joke from its sub agent. Okay, let's see if it does this. Delegating. Okay, so now I can go here and see the first sub agent. Let's see what this does. One interesting thing in the subagent view of OpenCode is, ooh, it launched a subagent differently. That's pretty cool. So yeah, subagents don't have the native like tools to launch new subagents, but they have Bash, which lets them run a separate instance of OpenCode. Okay, so the reason I was going through this was to find out if I can have the LLM session we're working with create a subagent and then have that subagent go through the normal planning guidance doc, because I'd like to see if a subagent that knows nothing about what's supposed to happen, if that subagent can follow the meta plan and end up with a good concrete plan. In fact, yeah, I do not want the current subagent to create the concrete plan. I want a clean subagent to do it. So, okay, let's go back here. Am I in the correct directory? Yes. Okay. I need the path to that plan. Here it is. So go over here, and I'm going to have it orchestrate that. Oh, actually, I want it to kind of follow. Let's just have it execute that. Follow the instructions in that. Little rendering bugs here. There. Let's see if this agent does it. So the reason I'm doing this in a fresh LLM session is because there's too much context and knowledge in this one to truly test that the meta plan is working correctly, because this LLM guy, when he produces the concrete plan, it already kind of understands what went wrong before and what it is supposed to fix outside of just the contents in the meta plan. So this agent only understands what's actually in the metadata plan, and it's going to have to create a concrete plan only from that knowledge. So yeah, I want to have this create the concrete plan. And then once we have the concrete plan, I'm going to ask this guy to review it, and I'm going to tell it I had a subagent follow the instructions to create the plan, take a look at the plan, and see if it looks like things are fixed. And if things are fixed, then I'm going to have this original subagent orchestrate the concrete plan and see if that works out. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna sort of poke along off stream, and we'll continue tomorrow. I'll probably end up killing off this desktop that has the LLM conductor change, and maybe stage one of these other projects so that we can resume one of them, maybe the one where we're converting LLM conductor into a skill, or what's the other one? Or the one where, oh, that's the wrong one. Oh yeah, where I'm creating a demo recorder so that it starts a recorder recording a terminal window, and if there's no activity on the terminal window, it sort of pauses the recording and resumes later on. So we might continue those as our like third project on the next video. All right, thanks.